So, I think that we are able to start. And just for the panelists to know, we have both Sara and Carlo participating as well, so the founders of the GoodAfterCovid19 movement. But without further ado, I'll give the word to Kim. And now in the beginning, it's nice that we can all see each other, but during the presentations, we'll only have the video on of the one who's presenting.
Okay, thank you. So let's start. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to all of you. It's my honor to open the first Good After COVID-19 initiative webinar in Finland. My name is Kim Karme and I'm the CEO of SPROF. Some initial words from me to this meeting. Is it time to talk good after COVID at this stage is the question. And I see it as human for people to wish everything to be tomorrow as it was yesterday. It makes us feel safe and we learn routines that make us survive. But we all know that this is not true. We only need to look in the mirror. My picture looks exactly the same today as it was yesterday, but for sure very different from what it was 40 years ago. So change happens every day. As leaders, we are used to the thought that tomorrow is different from today. We also want to be proactive instead of reactive. And that is why it is our responsibility as leaders to take the initiative and start thinking, what good will this bring for the future? My second thought is the question of good. Is the same good for all or bad for someone? For sure, this is the case when we look at issues on micro level. Some gain, some lose. Most of us will adapt and survive. But is it the same also in the big picture? Will there be a change in some megatrends that we all can agree that are good for the mankind or the globe? I'm not giving a list, just drop some words like sustainability, virtuality, humanity, and the list could be very long. Can the open discussions initiated through the Good After COVID-19 initiative have impact on the development and agreeing of the good? I think that's what we are going to talk about in the next few minutes.
Yes, wonderful. Sara, would you want to give some comments as well? Welcome.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting us. Thank you so much. It was very interesting to join the conversation. So I'm Sara Rovarsi. I'm the founder of the Future Food Institute. And really at the beginning of this pandemic, I was talking with Carlo, who's the dean of Franklin University, and we were really thinking about how might we, let's say, take advantage of this situation, even if we are still all sharing this kind of ordeal, trying to take out the best of the learnings out of this experience. In my work, I'm very focused on innovation in the food system and really thinking around how might we change and reshape the food system to make it more accessible, inclusive, and fair for all. And of course, what we have been seeing during these 2 months is that actually the entire food ecosystem, global food ecosystem, is really facing a lot of challenges, is very disordered. There are tons of issues that we all know working in food, but now everyone is perceiving. So, of course, we strongly believe working in food, not only with the industry, but also running educational program, that we're going to face pretty soon a situation where the entire demography is going to impact so much on our world, with millions of unemployed people, unemployed families. And we see the effects also here in Italy, where actually the number of people asking for support because they cannot, they don't have money anymore to buy food for the family for 3 meals per day, for example. And this is for sure something that we're going to see. And then there's going to be the behavioral shift that is going to happen for sure. So, of course, facing those two big scenarios, we need to think how might we make our experiences both in work environment and in educational journeys more intergenerational, trying to being very focused on creating learning experiences that are very much pushing people in developing the systemic thinking, because we are now dealing with a huge complexity. And all the world leaders were working on trying to simplify the messages, but simplifying the messages, we have not been helping the broader society, because now we are dealing with a huge complexity from my perspective. And then we need to start really to rely more on science and to share different kind of experiences that are going to bring back spirituality also in the work environment. So this is a little bit what we have been doing. And the Good After COVID experience has been an amazing opportunity, because I'm learning to listen more. I was enjoying your conversation. I was enjoying all the conversation that we have been doing. And the big goal that we have is really to reach, let's say, the 20% of the world that are sharing the same mission and are taking this experience, this humanitarian experience, as a huge opportunity to grow and build a better world together. Thank you so much for inviting us, and keep doing what you're doing, because this is so much needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Sara. Carlo, would you want to give some of your thoughts?
Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for this opportunity, Tina, and the rest of the group. This was really so interesting. It's so good to see how actually research can be impactful when there is sort of an emergency coming up. We've seen science picking up with solutions at incredible rate. We've seen business and research for business creating very, very interesting insights to help navigating through. And all of this in a very few weeks. I remember before COVID, getting stuck at conversations and a solution that would never come for years and years, which is also sometimes typical of schools and universities. And so I take that as one potential very good outcome out of this crisis we're living. My message together with Sara is a message of gratitude for you to using what has become a hashtag globally used in the past 2 months, and push reflections on really what can be harvested out of this crisis. And my one additional insight on what can be harvested has to do with our change-making potential. So I think all of us that are engaged in this webinar have an interest in helping with positive change. And I think there is a huge opportunity right now. One thing that has emerged is that the current leadership, the current systems are much more vulnerable than we maybe thought before. And that vulnerability is really now, the way I perceive it, creating a new leveling playing field. It's almost everything is possible now if we use our ability to imagine and to build what we want the future to be, because the barriers and all the things that appeared as impossible before, that sense of impossibility is not there anymore, because all those strong truths didn't hold the power of this virus, for instance. So with that, it's really a weapon that can be used, unfortunately, in very bad ways. And we know that in crisis, there can be speculators that use that vulnerability to do the wrong things. But for once, it could also be used to do great, new, and positive things. And that's my invitation for all of us engaged in this initiative and beyond, to really use this vulnerability to build the positive change that we thought it was impossible before, and all of a sudden can be possible. So thank you again, and good luck to all of us engaged in this.
Wonderful. Thank you, Carlo.
The next speaker will be Emma Nordbäck. Emma is an assistant professor at Hanken School of Economics. And she will speak about virtual teams. Is there a silver lining in virtual teams? So just Emma, please take over and present yourself and the topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim, for the introduction. Just a practical question. Tina, I'll ask you to move the slides forwards for me because I cannot operate the slides, I think. Okay, so welcome on my behalf as well. My name is Emma Nordbäck and I work as an assistant professor at Hanken School of Economics. And I've been studying virtual teams for the past 10 years or so, and currently eagerly following what the future work will look like. So so happy to talk about virtual teams and whether there might be some silver linings in all of this. Okay, I think we went backwards. If you can go, yes. So we are all in the middle of an unexpected storm at the moment. We got hit by it a couple of months ago. We are still in the middle of it, and we are not 100% sure of when we will be out of it. Next slide. Maybe I just, have a long pause and then that you change the slide. So offices all around the world are empty at the moment. And recently, about a month ago, the number of people working partly or full-time reached an astonishing 2.7 billion people around the world. And I've seen numbers in Finland talking about approximately 1 million people working remotely during COVID-19. So I think it's fair to say that virtual teams have become the current normal. And I'm not saying new, because virtual teams have been around for quite some time already before COVID-19. And a couple of years ago, there were estimates of 1.5 billion people working remotely or in virtual teams at least part of their time. But despite the popularity of these teams, there is one unpleasant truth about them. The majority of them fail. More than 50% of virtual teams fail to meet their expected targets. And these high failure rates are problematic due to the increasing popularity of these teams. And while there are plenty of reasons for this high failure rate of these teams, many of them can be tied back to the fact that people don't know how to work in virtual teams. People commonly continue to work like though their team would be co-located, but there are many aspects of co-located teams that doesn't apply to virtual space. And you may have noticed some challenges yourself when working remotely in the past with your team in the past few months. And if you're finding that you're more exhausted at the end of your virtual workday compared to an office day, you're not alone. Over the past few weeks, mentions of Zoom fatigue have popped up more and more on social media. And this is a kind of a new concept which has popped up during COVID-19. And while I tend to recommend people to put on their video when you have online meetings because they are more engaging and people stay more focused, I now find myself recommending people to, pick up their phone and like the old school way to call people up, just to not lose sight of spontaneous interactions. And meanwhile, during COVID-19, while many are struggling, we also have witnessed highly engaged workers, actually. And some people seem to be born virtual workers. And they have really got into a kind of upbeat mode in the past few months. So if we move forward to the next slide, that leads me into asking, is there a silver lining in all of this? While we cannot predict the future, what the future will look like for sure, what we can do is to be involved in designing it together. And in doing so, I wanted to give you some food for thought in this presentation. And so what I will do is to share with you some of my preliminary findings from a research project that I'm working on at the moment, where I followed the journey of 10 office-based teams that over the blink of an eye went 100% virtual due to COVID-19 and the lockdown of offices. So around 70 people have shared their experiences from this unique situation in around 250 diary entries with me so far. And while this is truly an ocean of data, I will pick out some aspects which might help us, to think about the future and what good after COVID-19 may mean from a virtual team's perspective. So moving on to the next slide, what new has COVID-19 brought with it to virtual teams? So virtual teams is a broadly studied topic. And as I said, I've studied it for 10 years. There are other researchers that have studied virtual teams for 20 years or so. So one may ask, what is it that is new about this now that we can learn that we didn't know before? And I've listed 4 aspects here where I see some new tensions going on in virtual teams. Changing team dynamics, people juggling between being together with their team or being alone, prioritizing life and own well-being versus staying connected all the time, performing all the time. And last, there is a horizon tension creeping in on people. So first, team dynamics. Let's start by looking at the normal structure of a virtual team. So usually a virtual team is made up of various sub-locations. So for instance, take this team here to the left. We have 7 members in Helsinki and 2 members in Vaasa. And what this structure does to the team is that it creates location-based subgroups. So meetings are commonly held at the office with a few people participating over technology. And for instance, in this Helsinki-Vaasa team, it might be difficult for the 2 members in Vaasa to feel included in the discussion, to feel that they are on the same page as the rest of their team. But if we go to the next slide and look at the COVID-19 structure of a virtual team, it looks more like this, right? So we have a 1-to-1-to-1-to-1 configuration of the virtual team. And what this does to the team is that it changes the team dynamics, for better and worse, which we will see. So in the next slide, the good news is that having a 1-to-1-to-1 configuration of a virtual team in many ways democratizes the team. Like this one distant side participant mentioned here, I feel much more included in the team. Now when everyone is being an outsider in front of their own screen, it feels like they remember me and includes me more into the discussions. I've been able to influence decisions and not only hear about them after they have been made, which used to be the case. So by removing office-based cliques, virtual teams may in many ways become more equal and inclusive. And this is a lesson which many study participants plan to bring with them into the future. And at the same time, if we look at the next slide, COVID-19 has also brought with it additional twists to equality in teams. Everyone does not have the same preconditions for participating in their team. Having to perhaps care for kids at home during the workday, some people's workload have gone up, others' workload have gone down. And I find these kind of tensions. Some people, for instance, without kids feel that they need to sacrifice and do more work to make up of the, to care for the other team members which have a more difficult situation. But that's not fair. a fair way to think about it either. And all of this brings additional tensions to the team. And yeah, but that makes me think that can there be anything good coming out of this? And what I see in this research evidence is a growing empathy among team members towards each other's. And I've seen many people commenting that they have connected with their team in a way like never before, and on a more personal level. And so if we move forward to the next slide, one of the contributors to this is co-presence with your team. And here in this picture, we are having a good laugh together with Tina, Kim and Petri, which really helped me to connect with this team. So even though it was the first time we were meeting, I immediately connected with them. So having informal coffee breaks with your virtual team has brought many teams closer. People have reported how they have learned things about their normally co-located colleagues, which they would never have learned at the office. And at the same time, if we move forward in the presentation, people have reported that they have started to live out from these coffee breaks. So sometimes due to the fact that there are too much COVID-19 talk, and that only brings anxiety to them. And sometimes due to the fact that there are too many people present participating, making it very hard to have a natural conversation. So what was supposed to be a forum for co-presence, the quality of interaction may be so poor, which in the worst case makes people feel more distant from their team. And that was not the purpose of these breaks. So sometimes people also choose to not attend due to the fact that there are pressing deadlines and the break is not on the agenda. And this leads me into the next topic on the next slide. Work-life balance, or should I say imbalance. There is a lot of focus on work at the moment, and because the contexts are kind of blurring, many people have a hard time to separate between work and life. And this is generally not a new topic, but what is different now is that people who generally prefer to keep strict boundaries between work and life are struggling more now, because they don't have a wall that they can disconnect work from the other side of life. And if we move to the next, so I currently see a lot of stories like this one that I feel that I need to be available all the time, all the time. All the team I've read about all the time. I mean, I hardly take any breaks, or when I do, I feel bad about myself. I also feel I need to perform more than when at the office. But at the same time, as humans, we are adaptable. We are more resilient than we think, and we bounce back. And so if we move to the next slide, I've also started to see different interesting boundary strategies by people like the one here to the right. So a person says that I've started to take walks to work, which is home, and from work, which also is home, just to keep the boundaries between work and home. And with that, I'd like to move towards the end of my presentation. So if we move to the next slide, while many feel a sense of uncertainty about the future, there is also this kind of, interesting horizon tension going on, with some people asking themselves now at the moment, what if I don't want to go back to how things were? And my question to you is, do we have to? Do we have to do that? On the next slide, Ariana Huffington, which is a global influencer, recently shared this thought-provoking picture with the world, stating that normal wasn't working. If we go back to the way things were, we will have lost the lesson, right? May we rise up and do better. So normal isn't working. And if we go to the next slide, this is an interesting fact, and that we've long had a kind of global engagement problem in the world. So 85% of full-time employees feel disengaged in their work, feeling that they work for an employer who doesn't care about them. So the current or the past leadership approaches fails to engage workers and drive performance in the workplace. And in the next slide, what comes to the use of office space, many workers have already left the building way before COVID-19. Knowledge workers aren't at their desk more than 50% of their time. So, and there's also a lot of disengagement happening at the office. I don't want to state that we shouldn't go back to the office, but I still, want us to think about the role of the office. And if we move to the next slide, I'm asking, like, what is the role of office going to be in the future? And I'm sure that many teams are going to be very happy to be reunited at the office, and physical co-presence will always have its place. But I'm sure we will and we can take lessons with us into the future here. Like, for instance, perhaps it's about time to move away from from measuring performance through hours spent at work, like through physical presence at the office. Are there other measures for performance, for instance? So moving on to the next slide, I'll just repeat that normal wasn't working. Maybe raise up and do better. And on the next slide, just wanted to talk about that the road ahead is long and foggy. So we don't know how the future would look like. But what I want you to keep in mind is that you are the driver and you are not alone in this. So together with your team, together with your organization, with the broader society, I think it's time to engage in the discussion about how to co-design the future of work. And next slide is just a thank you. Thank you all for listening. Thank you.
Wonderful. We will then move on. There didn't seem to be any questions, but we will have a chance to discuss at the latter parts. So we'll then move on to Petri, if he can put the camera on, and Emma gets a break in between. And remember that if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat, or then you can just raise the hand. The chat is better at this point so that we get to move through the presentations, but if there are any questions, just feel free to ask.
Okay, welcome to the interactive webinar from my behalf. My name is Petri Laulajainen. I'm a partner at Sprof. So I will cover 4 parts in my presentation. The survey, which is the basis for this presentation. So first, what are the short-term impacts on companies with COVID-19? Second, the mega trends that are affecting companies on longer term. And third, the development project companies have executed in last 2 years and planned development for next 2 years. And after the survey results, I tried to present a few common ways how companies could better design their future and utilize the opportunities coming from the inevitable change. So Hanken and Sprof carried out a survey on the impact of COVID-19 on companies and the effect of megatrends on their industry. We sent a questionnaire to CEOs and top management of the 400 largest companies in Finland and received 85 responses. We interviewed 12 executives to obtain more details of the specific impact the COVID-19 and the forces of change put to their company. But we would like to receive a larger view on the impact of different industries, and we keep the study open till next Monday. So if you would like to take part, please leave us your email address and we will send you the survey. So there will also be a white paper of the issue, and Janina and Alexandra from Hanken will update us more about it later. In the first part of the survey, we asked the companies to respond on the crisis caused by COVID-19. So the first question was about the most important measures and effects of the COVID in short term. So the biggest issue with COVID-19 was that the uncertainty of the duration of the virus makes it difficult to make decisions and focus on continuity of the business. Second biggest issue was the declining demand. Companies are adjusting their operations and resources, and some companies even are laying off their personnel, and many are adapting telework or work at home. And there was discussion on previous presentations. So question is how you leave people at home with underwears, coffee and computer. But on other hand, the biggest issues were the cash flow. It becomes the daily topic and affects all the decisions company make. So timely, accurate data is needed even more than ever. But the problem still, however, is the uncertainty of this situation. Where do you plan your future? So more than half said that they have to speed up the change management initiatives to ensure the continuity of the operations. We asked them about their business continuity plan. Less than 5% have not done any continuity plans. Around 20 have only on general level. 20% have been making sure they are ready for value chain problems and possible disruptions. And 34% have planned corrective actions and also for staff shortages and how to leave people at home. And the best class, less than 20% or less than 22% are already focusing on midterm plans. So how to react on the mega trends that are affecting the industry. So nearly 70% of the companies are reacting to the crisis using just own resources. The external help they need is mostly in analyzing financing options, and then more specific for their company situation, like helping to analyze the impact on consumers and investment markets. And on sale, that's interesting, how to sell from sofa to sofa when physical meetings are not appreciated. On our discussions and interviews with the CEOs and executives, they said, sometimes this is even generation question. Older guys like me are not that easy to use digital forms of selling, but that is changing. So what they also said, there's a need for scenario work. How does the coming changes impact the market? And the uncertainty is there, but you have to build your picture where you go and where you take your company. One issue was also digitalization, and that will rise again, even bigger issue when companies are forced to use something to reorganize themselves. On the second part, we asked their views on forces of change that impact on the longer term. We asked, what are the most important megatrends that are affecting their business? So nearly 70% said that technological development like digitalization, IoT, and mobility is the biggest change influencer. It will change their business models, business structures, and even the role of the players in the industry. So businesses are forming networks and value chains are turning into value networks. Customer expectations are changing industrial companies to more service providers. And also more than 47% saw that the economic downturn will have negative impact on their business. So they really need to reorganize their operations to be prepared for the new normal, whatever it is. So the forces of change have been there a while. So it's not a new trend. Nearly 60% have answered that it's been there 2 to 4 years, and more than 20% said it has been there more than 5 years. But how does these forces influence the customer interface? For companies to maintain competitiveness, they need to build more agile business processes, enabling them to meet the changing demand. There are platforms and ecosystems where players from different industries can enter that will increase competition. So new market entries from global players can change the market and influence customer behavior. I was discussing with insurance companies. So there's, for example, IKEA is entering insurance markets. So that will have huge impact on our insurance companies, big players with big cash flows. And that causing active pricing. You have to react on changing demand, and customers' sensitivity to switch to new options are causing challenges for traditional companies. And companies are monitoring and following closely those challenges and changes. But when companies are monitoring their own business processes, they are not that well prepared to meet the challenge. So nearly half of the companies are saying that their processes can meet the challenge poorly or on average. What capabilities and skills they need to develop to utilize the opportunities? The answer said the biggest issue was the agility. So how to influence the business processes so you can respond to the changing demands. And more than 63% said they need understanding of digitalization and robotics, or how to use them to automate the processes. More than half said they need capabilities to develop innovative products or services, and of course, change management. How can you implement the sustainable change? Companies are continuously developing their organization. So we asked what kind of development initiatives they have implemented in the last 2 years and what plans they have for the next 2 years. So during the last 2 years, they've been carrying out multiple projects, and the areas they have developed is a very large one. So most of the companies have developed their business processes and strategy. CRM and resource planning has been widely developed also. More than 57% have developed digital products, and more than half companies supervisory skills. So these are the development initiatives before COVID-19 came. And when we did ask them about the next 2 years, the picture changes. So every fourth company will develop business processes, of course, but the uncertainty of the COVID-19 and the duration of market disruptions are affecting their views of the most important measures they have to do. And I hope we can help to give them some clarity for the situation with the good after COVID. So a couple of common ways to help companies design their future. When we have data about the mega trends, the forces of change, so companies need to choose the most relevant ones to their industry and company and analyze the possible impacts to their businesses. So how do the different megatrends influence their line of business? How does it change the market situation and customer demands? When conclusions and different scenarios are considered, what are the requirements for the business model? Do you need to change it or just a little bit modify it? So what we have to change and what new organizational capabilities we need to develop our company. So is it only internal resources or do we need external resources as well? When you have chosen the relevant megatrends, you can summarize and prioritize their effect on your business lines. So you can make conclusions and measure the impact. So on the next level, you get to what effect it has on your customer interface. Does it influence our market position and where we need to advance? You need to do conclusion of the attractiveness of different markets and what are the desired segments you want to focus on. And then what is the effect on our business model? So internally, we can analyze what new products or services we need to develop in order to utilize the opportunities. And then what are the competencies and capabilities we need to acquire? I think there was a couple of questions about how to develop your capabilities from the viewers of COVID-19 webinar. So it comes from your effect of business model, what you need to develop in able to utilize the change. So they are different for many companies. But we know that changes in the environment change our business. So how companies are prepared and can they turn changes into opportunities is a very big key for factor and for future success. So how to create a future winning potential? We have already analyzed the changes and made a couple of different scenarios. We have visualized the new normal and visioned our desired position on the market. We can emphasize the issues and challenges we are facing during our progress towards our visionary state and make alternative strategies how to overcome most probable issues and challenges. But then we need to make the strategic choices, the decisions and actions we need to take in order to achieve our vision. And one of the biggest questions is then, do we need change or transformation? We need to define if our organizational structure and business processes are up to the challenge. So to maintain our competitiveness, do we need to build more agile business processes? And can we meet the change in demand with our current business model and organizational structure? So what are the structural changes we need to take in order to achieve the competitive advantage in the new normal? These are the couple of issues we need to build, and I hope the discussion with Good After COVID-19 will give us more answers. But my time is coming to end, and back to you, Tina.
Yeah, thanks. That was very, very good. And it was nice to see also that some of you, at least, between listening to Petri, had the chance to answer the poll questions. It's good to get your views of how things are advancing.
And still reminding that please take part of the survey.
Yes.
So we get more information about impacts on different industries.
Absolutely. And for more information in general, it's feel free to contact Petri at any point. Wonderful. There didn't seem to be any questions yet on the chat. No, and no one has raised their hand. Then we'll move on to sharing a video with you. I just want to check that. Can you hear the sound?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Joo, eli täällä ollaan Lähi-Tapiolan pääkaupunkiseutu päämajassa autotalossa ja kiitoksia, että pyysit vierailulle ja saadaan haastatella. Eli Lähi-Tapiolan pääkaupunkiseudun talousjohtaja Sakari Pehkonen. Te olette tehneet aika paljon jo kehittämistä ja tämän digitaalisuuden eteen. Mutta nyt kun tuli tämä koronakriisi, niin miten tämä epidemian puhkeaminen vaikutti teidän päivittäiseen liiketoimintaan?
Kyllä sillä vaikutuksia on joka puolella tietysti yhteiskuntaa ja jokaisen yksilön ja myös liiketoimintaa. Ensi alkuun pyrittiin tietenkin varmistamaan meidän henkilöstön turvallinen työskentely ja turvallisuus ja kuunneltiin totta kai herkällä korvalla meidän klubin puolella tulevia ohjeita, myöskin sitten niin terveysviranomaisten ohjeita ja hallituksen ohjeita. Ja voitiin niistä sitten omaa tilannekuvaa ja ollaan sitten ohjeistettu henkilöstön siitä eteenpäin, pidetty heidät ajan tasalla ja myöskin sitten hyvin paljon informoitu hallitukseen päin. Ensisijaisesti tietysti niin ollaan asiakkaiden rahoihin varmistettu asiakkaiden rahat on turvassa ja oma vakavaraisuus säilyy riittävänä ja sitten likviditeetti säilyy riittävänä, että näitä asioita ollaan varmistettu. Sen lisäksi tietysti niin vielä niin kaikki mikä liittyy johtamiseen ja tähän työskentelytapojen muuttumiseen niin on aiheuttanut sitten kaiken näköistä pientä säätöä tässä matkan varrella.
Niin, tämä etätyö oli tällä varmaan jo aikaisemminkin hallussa, mutta mitä tämän koronavirusepidemian aiheuttama niin etätyö, miten se sujuu ja minkälaisia ongelmia huomasitte?
Joo, kyllä te oikeastaan äskeisestä listasta niin jäi pois tuo asiakaspalvelun varmistaminen ja tosiaan heti alkuvaiheessa niin tuli ongelmia sitten meidän yhteyksien kanssa, että ei ollut tarpeeksi kaistaleveyttä ja aika äkkiä sitä lähdettiin sitten korjaamaan. Saatiinkin se sitten melko nopeasti nostettua ylös, mutta tietysti niin kaikki eivät ole tottuneet tehdä työskentelyä sitä jossain määrin tehty ja harjoiteltu, mutta ei tietenkään tämmöisessä mittakaavassa. Ja se tulee tietysti uudenlaisen tilanteen tähän.
Oletko muuten siirtynyt etätyöhön?
Kaikkiaan parhaimmillaan 95% henkilöstöstä niin on ollut etätöissä. Nyt ollaan pikkasen takaisinpäin ja sitten se, että me piti varmistaa tosiaan se asiakaspalvelu, niin jouduttiin tekemään sitten ratkaisuja, jossa meidän toimitiloihin niin hajasijoitettiin asiakaspalvelijoita, että niissä tapauksissa kun linjat meni alas, niin ne oli aina jossain henkilöstöä tai asiakkaat näitä saavuttiin. Myöskin korvauspalvelut toimivuus täytyy varmistaa, koska kysymys on asiakkaiden rahoista ja siihen ei saa tulla katkoksia.
Mitäs asiakkaat? Tuliko niitä paikan päälle vai siirtyykö kaikki virtuaalisesti?
Niin, kyllä se paikan päälle tuleminen sitten katkaistiin. Me suljettiin myöskin ne toimistot asiakastapaamisilta ja siirryttiin tällaisiin verkkotapaamisiin, joita itse asiassa ollaan harjoiteltu jo etukäteen, että sinällään me ei siirrytty uuteen maailmaan. Jonkun verran jouduttiin siinäkin sitten niin erilaisia teknisiä ratkaisuja hyödyntämään, mutta aika merkittävää on ollut se, että asiakkaat ovat antaneet äärimmäisen hyvän palveluarvosanoja niin tuosta puhelinpalvelusta kuin sitten näistä verkkotapaamisistakin. Et siinä on ollut oikeastaan sellainen asiakaskäyttäytymisen muutos, jota on tässä jo suuntaan ollaan muutenkin liikuttu, mutta sitten epidemian takia niin se muutos vaan tässä on vauhdittunut.
Tuo on mielenkiintoinen mieleyhtymä, että on tämä etätyöstä on niin voisi niin alasarjat kahvia kännykkällä. Miten tämän johtaminen, että millä te saitte sen porukan koordinoitua, että yllättäen tulee tilanne, että 95% tekee etätöitä?
No ei se helppo harjoitus ole. Siinä tietenkin niin kuin esimiesten johtoryhmän rooli ja esimiesten rooli niin on hyvin tärkeää. Ja meillä perustettiin tämmöinen kriisiryhmä, nyt oikein kriisinhallintaryhmä, joka muodostettiin johtoryhmän jäsenistä ja sitten tärkeimpien kriittisimpien toimintojen lähiesimiehistä, jotka sitten koordinoidaan koko muutoksen. Sen lisäksi niin sen kautta on tehty tiedottamista henkilöstölle ja pidetty heidät tosiaan ajan tasalla koko ajan. Et siitä on saatu erityiskiitosta henkilöstöltä, että tieto on kulkenut saumattomasti kyllä sitten niin johtoryhmältä henkilöstölle ja henkilöstöltä johtoryhmälle, että sieltä myöskin sitten tulee arvokasta tietoa koko ajan, johon pitää reagoida. Ja tosiaan niin nostit tänne että mitä se voi niin kuin, etätyö olla, niin eihän tietenkään kaikilla ole ergonomisesti oikeanlaisia työpisteitä kotona. Ja nuoria ihmisiä paljon myöskin töissä, niin siellä ei kalustusta merkittävästi kotona ole, että siellä on improvisoitu aika laajaltakin, että saada sitten työpisteet sinne rakennettua, mutta lähes pääsääntöisesti niin hyvää palautetta myöskin henkilöstön suunnasta. Tästä on tullut. Tosin etätyö tulee jakamaan niitä, jotka eivät siitä pidä, ja ihmisiä se pihoillessa sopii paremmin.
Oletko huomannut, että siinä on sukupolvien kuilu?
Siinä voi olla sukupolvien kuilua, mutta ehkä enemmänkin se on sitten luonnekysymys, että se korostuu paljon se, että tietysti se, että miten esimiehet pystyvät johtamaan tätä etätyötä ja miten asetetaan päiväkohtaisia tavoitteita, miten niitä seurataan, mutta ennen kaikkea sitten se itsensä johtaminen siellä. Ja osittain ihmiset on erilaisia, toiset kaipaa sitä sosiaalista kontaktia päivittäin, niin toisille se ei ole mikään ongelma. Se myöskin sitten jakaa porukkaa vähän kahteen leiriin, että kyllä meillä paljon oppimista vielä on ja tällä hetkellä rakennetaan tällaista etäjohtamisen malli, joka soveltuu nimenomaan tänne meille. Meille asiat on varmaan niin kuin kaikilla tiedossa, että mitä siellä tulee huomioida, mutta se, että miten se viedään sitten käytäntöön, niin voi varmaan alueittain.
Sitten kerroit aikaisemmin, että teillä oli keskusteluja ruotsalaisten vakuutusalan toimijoiden kanssa ja oli vähän edellä tässä epidemiassa. Niin minkälaisia kokemuksia he kertovat?
No joo, me ollaan sparrattu ruotsalaisten toimijoiden, keskinäisten toimijoiden kanssa, niin kuin tehdään monessa muussakin asiassa yhteistyötä heidän kanssaan. Nyt tästä niin epidemian käsittelystä nimenomaan niin kuin henkilöstön näkökulmasta ja siitä näkökulmasta, että minkälaisia käytäntöjä on hyvä jakaa ja mitä sitten pitää huomioida, kun palataan sitten kohti normaalimpaa olotilaa. Kukaan ei tiedä, mihin tässä sitten päädytään ja millä aikataululla. Että silleen kristallipalloa ei ole, mutta se on ollut hyvä benchmarkki siinä mielessä, että onko kaikki niin kuin asiat tullut huomioitua riittävällä painoarvolla ja sitten toisaalta ehkä sitäkin, että minkälainen näkemys heillä on sen varmaan tästä sitten palataan.
Joo, niin kukaan ei tiedä mikä tämä niin sanottu uusi normaali on. Päästään tästä koronaviruksesta vähän eteenpäin, niin miten sä näet pidemmällä aikavälillä, että mitkä on ne muutosvoimat, jotka vaikuttavat vakuutustoimialaan ja sitä kautta sitten heijastuu asiakasrajapintaan?
No nyt ainakin tämän niin seurauksena varmaan tämmöiset niin ilmastonmuutokseen liittyvät asiat tai ylipäätään mitä siitä voi niin heijasteisesti seurata. Ja tiedä, onko tämä pandemia suoraan yhteydessä siihen vai ei, mutta niin ainakin niin olosuhteet, kun heittelee suuresti, niin sieltä voi tulla yllättäviä ilmiöitä, että tähän pitää niin riskienhallintamielessä toki ottaa huomioon kaikkialla. Sitten tämä digitalisaation tuomat mahdollisuudet, niin näkisin, että nämä tässä vaihtuvat. Että tavallaan ne asiat, jotka tässä on ollut menossa, niin saa vähän lisää puhtia sitten alleen ja niihin tullaan panostamaan lähivuosina aika monellakin toimialalla. Ja tuossa ollaan oltu jo niin kuin lähellä niin tavallaan, että koko ajan teknologia menee taustalla eteenpäin ja haetaan niitä tapoja, että miten ne tuodaan lähelle tätä omaa bisnestä ja ikään kuin sitten saadaan realisoitua omassa liiketoiminnassa asiakkaiden hyödyksi ja liiketoimintahyödyksi. Me ollaan monessa asiassa jo hyvinkin lähellä oltu ja ehkä nyt sitten tässä voi tämä muutos tapahtua niin kuin kovinkin nopeasti.
Nämä vakuutusmarkkinat tulee muuttumaan. Aika paljon on uutta tulossa. Niin mitä toimenpiteitä, millä te varaudutte, että olette ensin reagoida etulinjassa muutoksessa ja hyödynnätte sitä?
Tietysti täytyy olla selkeä visio siitä, tai kun tehty skenaarioharjoitukset, mihin tämä maailma voi mennä ja sitten katsoa, mikä se meidän paikka siellä on. Siinä joo, kyllä pitää olla se, niin se tähtäin olemassa, että kohti mennään ja sitten siellä on stepit matkan varrella, mihin pyritään pääsemään. Ja polku varmaan tulee mutkittelemaan matkan varrella, mutta kun selkeä maalitaulu, niin se aina helpottaa sitä kysymyksen asettelua siinä matkan varrella ja tie ohjaa myöskin sitten ratkaisujen tekemistä. Varmuudella vaikuttaa tulevaan strategiaan ja se, että katsotaan tuonne 10 vuotta eteenpäin. Niin muutosvoimat varmaan säilyy pitkälti samankaltaisina, mutta sitten se, että miten me kyetään niin asemoimaan itsemme siihen tulevaan kaupunkimaisemaan, että minkälaista elämää täällä silloin on, minkälaiset on ihmisten preferenssit silloin, mitä vakuutetaan, mitä ei vakuuteta. Jotain tulee poistumaan, jotain tulee tilalle ja mikä meidän rooli itse asiassa sitten niin vakuutusyhtiönä niin on siinä kokonaisuudessa, miten me myöskin asemoimme itsemme näitä niin globaaleja kilpailijoita vastaan. Ja se on mielenkiintoinen harjoitus, että suoria vastauksia minulla ei sulle tässä hetkessä ole, mutta varmaan on se, että ne pitää olla niin tällä hetkellä niin kovaa vauhtia valmistautumassa niin tähän digitaaliseen liiketoimintamalliin, että onko se sitten meidän versio siitä niin jonkinlainen hybridi, en tiedä. Niin uskoisin näin, että myöskin meidän merkitys vahinkojen ennaltaehkäisijänä niin on iso tässä yhteiskunnassa. Että vastuullisuuden teema nyt on joka tapauksessa nostanut päätään, mutta miten se sitten halutaan ymmärtää. Että mun mielestä on vähintäänkin yhtä tärkeää se, että me toimitaan itse vastuullisesti, on se, että saamme myöskin ne asiakkaat ajattelemaan vastuullisesti ja sitä kautta sitten niin parantamaan tätä elämänlaatua täällä.
Digiloikka on jo tehty, mutta sitten se digi-3-loikka.
Niin se on, mä jotenkin itse vierastan näitä kumpaakin sanaa, että jos mennään kyllä niin kuin pieniä askeleita kerrallaan ja koko ajan eteenpäin ja välillä tullaan vähän taaksekin päin ja katsotaan, että ollaanko tehty ihan oikeita valintoja, oikeanlaisia teknologisia ratkaisuja, ollaanko oikeiden kumppaneiden kanssa liikenteessä. Ja kyllä niin nämä omatkin oletukset niin välillä pieleen menee, mutta se tietysti niin on tässä mahtavia onnistumisiakin sattunut matkan varrelle ja niitä sitten jatkokehittämällä niin pystytään luomaan tämmöistä niin hetkellistäkin kilpailuttua.
Just. Ja nyt tähän loppuun, että jos voisi pyytää muutaman positiivisen näkemyksen, että me ollaan aika vaikeassa tilanteessa, mutta siitä huolimatta, mitä pysyvää hyvää sä näet, että tämä muutos tuo yhteiskuntaan?
No ainakin toivon niin, että tämä tilanne niin nostaa nyt nämä vastuullisuusasiat niin pysyvästi ihmisten mieliin. Että se, miten huomioin lähimmäiset, miten huomioin niin oman itseni hyvinvoinnin ja miten huomioin ympäristön hyvinvoinnin. Se on varmuuden se isoin asia, jos tämä jää nyt sitten niin pysyväksi olotilaksi, niin mä uskon, että se on globaaleja vaikutuksia. Sitten ehkä toinen semmoinen asia, jolla saattaa olla niin Suomenkin kannalta merkitystä, niin tämmöinen tehokkuuden äärimmilleen viety niin optimointi, että siirretään tehdään tuotantoon semmoisia linjoja ja viedään tuotantoa tuonne aika kauaskin täältä, niin se voi johtaa sitten pahimmillaan niin ikäviin tilanteisiin, jotka varmaan joidenkin osalta niin nyt realisoituu, kun on ollut maailman kiinni hetken aikaa niin sanotusti. Niin tämä ehkä aiheuttaa sen, että otetaan muutama askel takaisinpäin ja niin haetaan jotain mallia ehkä siitä väliltä, joka saattaa sitten tarjota tänne myöskin vähän työpaikkoja ja tämä kotimainen tuotanto nousee taas vähän arvokkaammaksi asiaksi. Se on tässä viime vuosikymmenellä ollut.
Just. Kiitoksia ja ei muuta kuin tästä kohti vastuullisempaa uutta normaalia.
Kiitos.
Kiitos.
There we go. So, there hasn't been any questions yet? No, and no one has raised their hand. Then what we'll do next is that we'll have Marc from the CEO from Hanken Executive Education, and Marjut Rautiainen from Vis Consulting, giving some of their ideas, partly based on what's been gone through here, but also some additional ideas. Go ahead, Marc. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Can you see me and hear me? At least you can hear me, I hope.
We can see you.
You can hear me and might see me. I can't see myself because I see your beautiful slide. From the uncluttered clouds to the future. My name is Marc Hinnenberg. I am the CEO of Hanken and SSE Executive Education. We are development consulting leadership skills company owned by Hanken Business School and Stockholm School of Economics, which give us kind of a global player with a Nordic heart. And it has been interesting also to see kind of the impact on leadership. And from the beginning of February, when I think people started to talk about the COVID, which was actually only discovered in November, we have now been seeing that there's just been a kind of positive views and thinking about future when people have been more kind of managing the panic and as we also talked about how to secure cash flow and things like this. What we've been understanding as well is kind of the fast development of the virtual ways of working, but also kind of the virtual leadership, which is a hot topic now, and how to really lead the virtual teams. And I think that it was very interesting to say that if we look kind of on Emma's presentation where it said that 50% of the teams fail, I would kind of be interested to see the data 2020 and after COVID, that how those kind of settings are changing. So we have been talking a lot of the need of communication, the need of talking to people, and in a way when we miss the kind of coffee room chat, that kind of there's a possibility to do work and create tasks, but this kind of mutual innovation platforms are really, really kind of important to get working, to kind of spar and build on new ideas, which is kind of not that evident in a virtual setting as it is when you have a group of 25 people workshopping and changing groups and so on quickly, although they are digital tools as Housepace or Trello or something else. I would like to share a couple of thoughts on continued discussions about the COVID and not probably the good after COVID, but kind of strategies on how you are getting out of it. And that's a webinar that we are arranging at Hanken on the 27th of May at 14:30 Eastern European time, so Finnish time, and ending at 16. And so we're talking about kind of that this COVID had a social, macroeconomical impact, but also an impact on the corporation level and on a personal level. And we're talking about what kind of the impact has been, what are the ways out, and kind of what is the expectations and the communication between the different layers of government, corporations, and on a personal level, and how you're building this to kind of build a sustainable future. And we have panelists like Topi Miettinen, who is the economics professor at Hanken School of Economics. We have Heidi Schauman, a prominent chief economist at Swedbank in Finland. We have Pirkko Harrela, from the executive vice president from UPM, stakeholder relations. We have Roger Holm, who is the president of Marine Power and executive vice president at Wärtsilä. We have Penna Urrila, the chief economist of the Confederation of Finnish Industries, ECO, and Hanna Westman, who is the chief economist of the Financial Stability Authority, and also the possibility for the participants to ask questions. And we have over 500 participants now, so I'm extending the invitation for you. So please look up at the Hanken page to enroll to this. But this is as a short introduction myself and for the thoughts that I've been hearing about the way out of COVID.
Wonderful. Thank you, Marc. I'll hand over to Marjut.
Thank you, Tina. I'm Marjut Rautiainen, and I'm pleased to be here as a panelist. So my background and why I'm sitting here, first of all, I'm colleague of Tina in Sustory project, and my background, I have very high passion to sustainability things, and my background is in management consulting, and especially in energy efficiency. I have made that work for over 20 years. I have many opportunities to save customers' energy consumption and improve energy efficiency. But I'm very interested in sustainability things much more widely than energy efficiency. When I'm hearing in this panel and this webinar about these discussion topics, I would like to highlight that multidisciplinary. In Finland, over 10 years, we have discussed about this multidisciplinary very much in keynote speeches, and maybe they're in a university level and educational level, and they have many things have done there. For example, in Finland, Aalto University and so on. But in operational level, they're in management consulting, when we see that pressure to change everything, there is too many engineers. They are alone, and environmental specialists and economists and psychologists and so on. They're sitting at the same table or in virtual teams, but they don't really speak same language. And I'm happy for this good, what could be good after COVID. It could be that maybe there is now forced to, do more than now or more than previous in this sector. And everything needs learning. Virtual teams need learning in the individual level and team level and organizational level and company level. And but this multidisciplinary needs learning too. I'm sure that, because I'm engineer, I'm sure that it's not any option that one person can do everything: medical, pedagogical, statistical, technical, superpowers and professional. We need each others, and maybe we need some kind of vaccine against those silos. Waiting for that.
So we are now opening the conversation for all of the participants, and the way it would work is, first of all, for all of the speakers to put the camera on so that we can see you. And the attendees, you have a raise hand function. If you're unsure on how it works, you also have the chat function that you can use. I will also open up for everyone so that they are allowed to talk, which means that their microphone you will be able to use that one. But just to keep it so that we don't have too many people speaking on top of each other, it could be good that you use the raise hand function, and I'll divide the turns for you. One thing, of course, that to start off the conversation, one thing that has been asked already by the ones that signed up for this event was around how to become an expert on something that no one really is an expert on. So we are talking about good after COVID-19, and we're talking about COVID-19, and at the same time, no one really seems to know too much about the virus or how it affects or how we're going to tackle that and therefore it's hard to or how to have a conversation on something that no one's an expert on, and of course that's what we're trying to do here. But do you have any thoughts on that? We could start with Petri.
Well, yeah, you started with very easy question: how to be expert in something that no one knows. Well, one issue that was very interesting points they raised from Franklin University, and I was just thinking about the new normals. The issue was that the societies and countries that were better prepared for this virus, for example, New Zealand, Taiwan, Germany, Finland, Denmark, they have lady leaders. I'm not sure if that's affecting anything, but when you compare that to the worst responders, like United States, UK, Russia, Iran, they have very authoritarian regime. So I hope this shows the best of the society and the transparency and the leadership that can get us further. No one knows how long this virus will be in going around the globe, and what kind of next wave will be. But how you react currently and avoid the spread of the virus, I think that's very interesting issue. And those societies who have democracy and, sorry to say it for guys, but lady leaders, they are doing the best of the class. Any thoughts on that?
Mark, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, we could of course argue from an economical point of perspective in kind of what's the different strategies if we look at on Nordic perspective, where Sweden has been kind of the black sheep of the family, and the longer we go, the more Sweden could be the best in class. And this is an interesting discussion, and one of the discussions have been that Sweden has not had the laws because they have not been in war. So kind of in a way, there's not that kind of dependencies on having these issues and the funds kind of reserved for crisis situations, and they have kind of make up the story in a way. Well, there has been a big knowledge that if we look at universities, they tend to be 70% people of the female gender that are kind of applying and going to universities, which has been the trend a long time, and it's kind of taking over society from kind of when the muscular work was, it was kind of more men, and now the brain is the muscle. The women are taking over, which I think is a good thing. But I'm looking more for kind of an organizational view and a resilience view, or also in what are kind of the ways that we can feel that we are getting kind of out of this and finding interesting things to do, and we talk about the VUCA world and very complex issues that and it's kind of breaking up the elephant in small chunks that are eatable. And it's also kind of being an expert in an area where you're not an expert, is kind of making sense of the different views, which is kind of the essence of the leadership, that there are kind of two views, and the best way the leader can do is kind of find the third option, which is again listening and taking a part and engaging. So why are you thinking of like that? Why are you thinking that? And I know there's a prominent person which in Finland, which we all know, this called Björn Wahlroos, who is kind of always disagreeing on the common knowledge and getting kind of an expert view because you have another viewpoint, and that could be one way to think about this kind of two negatives, that you shift upside down and you find kind of new knowledge about that. And I think that's one of the things in leadership that you should do.
Yeah, to continuing on these very, very easy questions, there's one question that has come here. It says, even if we would be able to provide the most rudimentary basic support, food, shelter, and such for everyone, we would have to provide people with the sense of being needed too. The difficulty is that we don't actually need everyone for providing the basic support. How to create such a society that we would have capabilities to all people happy and needed? To keep all people happy and needed. Go ahead, Emma.
Okay. I can go first. I don't know about the societal level, but I feel that everyone operates in smaller networks, right? So I would think about that from a kind of minimum viable network perspective, that okay, everyone has the need to feel valued and needed, but not among everyone in the world, right? So if you have a central network to you where you feel needed and valued, I feel that's the most important thing. And so making sure that the people around you and the people that you are connected to have this kind of sense, I feel that kind of may then escalate into broader levels.
Did Marjut have something to comment?
No, actually, in that society level, we just need to call to Sanna Marin. I'm sure that she has some kind of answer for that.
Kim, you love difficult questions. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, I always say that I allow everyone to ask from me whatever they please, and I allow myself to answer whatever I please. So perhaps in this sense, I think how there is no objective right in the world. You have to fight for your rights, and in that sense, I think Emma's answer was very good. That you have to find the community where you are respected and where you find the feedback for what you are doing in order to feel that things are good for you. I would also want to go back a little bit to what was discussed previously of being an expert, and I think this is exactly the way I see the COVID-19, good after COVID-19 discussion, that we have opened a transparent, open discussion about the issues of the issue where nobody is an expert, but very many people have different opinions. And when we collect all these opinions, as Marc said, we can find a new way of looking at the issues and in that way become the experts. That's what I have been doing 30 years as a management consultant. I have never been an expert on anything, but the people around me have been, and by listening to their thoughts and thinking, we have found out a good way how to work in the future.
Yes.
I would like to comment, still build on the discussion that the COVID is not kind of the issue. The COVID is kind of the fuel that will drive the trends that have been, because I think that one of the things that people have been very, very scared about is technology taking over my job and artificial intelligence and stuff like this. And now we are kind of going one step more, that we use technological aids and maybe we distance ourselves from a physical contact and stuff like this, which is kind of driving the technological, as we see also Petri's discussions on the survey, that this is kind of, we think that it will only accelerate. So I think that all kind of the driving force and the megatrends are still there, but they are kind of escalated and enhanced when we're doing it. So probably the solutions are not the same, but they are kind of, we know, we can have a hunch of the way out of it and new ways. And I think that one thing that we need to kind of focus on is the humanity. And if we talk about what is the capabilities you need to have in the future, it's kind of the humanism and the possibility to not kind of just Google everything, but to really engage with people to get that kind of answers. So I have 3 kids, kind of 7, 9, and 12, and I ask her, what should you read? Should you read mathematics or should you be a coder? And we can't say kind of in this world, but if you are kind of human, then you probably know what you can do, but you need to be kind of ready to have a lifelong learning and to get new stuff during the way. It can be you are expert on something in 5 years and then you need to do something else. Kind of this broad, but Marius, I think, was talking about also this way, a multidisciplinary thinking.
There are still some questions, which is good, but just honoring people's schedules. I'll give you some hints on where to look further, and I think that this is basically just an opening, a kickoff for this whole conversation in Finland, and we absolutely need to continue this conversation. And naturally, you are more than welcome to contact us later on as well. As mentioned, I think that this is just a kickoff for a good conversation that needs to continue, as we need to both recognize the challenges that we're facing while also realizing the possibilities and the opportunities, and this cross-disciplinary and having this conversation with as many as possible is the only way forward. So for the ones that need to leave, that's fine. And I think that what we'll do is we'll send out a survey, and you'll also have some possibilities to ask questions there, and we will get the panelists together hopefully at a later stage, not too long from now. And we will also try to provide some answers through the web pages. So please answer the survey and give some of your questions there as well. This has been absolutely wonderful. I'll put my video on and we'll all wave and say thank you very much. Hope to see you very soon again, and hope this has been inspiring for all of you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think this is the start of the discussion. We will continue in future.
Yes.
Very near future. So be aware. Thank you.
Thank you.